Charlie was the most misunderstood missionary in Christendom. There's churches in America last Sunday that didn't even speak a word about him. I saw a poster that some children made that said, "Not all heroes wear capes." And they had a picture of Charlie. And I thought to those little ones, Charlie's not wearing a cape, but in accordance with Revelation 6:11, he's wearing the white robe of a martyr. I look at him as the Jim Elliot of our time. And I see Erica as the Elizabeth Elliot of our time. That woman is tough and she's strong. I'm so glad they gave her that position at Turning Point, because nobody knows the heart of Charlie like Erica Kirk. You see, when a martyr dies, his power dies. When a tyrant dies, his power dies. But when a martyr dies, his power multiplies. I was texting with a pastor of a very large church who said, we didn't really do anything last Sunday, but we're gonna carry the memorial service at our Sunday night service. But I see all these political leaders speaking. Is the gospel gonna be preached? And I said, well, I will, and I know Erica will. He says, it seems like it's just all political. That's old wineskins. They're so lost in the church today. The reason why Charlie and I got connected is I was moved by him. My son had told me about him, and I didn't do social media, and I didn't follow YouTube. And I was in an event speaking, and he was in the wings. And at the time, I was the mayor of the city of Thousand Oaks in California, and also a sitting pastor. And it was pastors in politics, and I was on the panel with Jack Hibbs and Pastor Tim Thompson, and they were asking us questions. And Pastor Jack kept deferring them to me because I was the only elected official. And then we finished the panel, and I'm coming down off the steps, and there's Charlie. And I knew my son liked him. I figured I'd take a picture with him. And I said, can I take a picture for my son? He goes, yeah, but first of all, I didn't know a guy like you existed. And I go, what's that? And he goes, a pastor in politics. And I said, I didn't know a guy like you existed. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, a young conservative. And that began a 6-year friendship that I will forever be grateful for. I invited him to come preach at the church, and he says, no, I don't preach in churches. I said, why is that, Charlie? And he said, because I'm too political and churches don't want me. I said, Charlie, politics is the highest form of community. It combines morality with sociability. If God didn't intend us to be in politics, he wouldn't have invented marriage. You see, the Church of America has become modern day Gnostics. It's heresy. They say, I just preach the gospel, I don't do politics. As though they can separate the holy from the tainted. The word polis means city, the affairs of the city. Last time I checked in Jeremiah 29, it says, pray for the peace of the city in which you dwell, for in its peace you'll have peace. Jesus even said that the first great commandment, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, mind. Love your neighbor as yourself. Don't you want your neighbor's kids to grow up knowing there's only 2 genders? Don't you want your neighbor's kids to grow up knowing the truth, that the truth would set them free? When Jesus said it'd be better for you to have a millstone tied around your neck to cause one of these little ones that stumbled, and I would say to them, what are you gonna say to Chloe Cole, who had a double mastectomy at 15, and she's looking at this generation saying, where were you when they lied to me? Oh, I don't do politics. Politics is dirty. And I look at those pastors and I say, the church is dirty. What's your point? And they say, well, I'm tired of voting for the lesser of 2 evils. Unless Jesus Christ is running for office, you're always voting for the lesser of 2 evils. You see, it's an excuse of laziness. They don't want to understand the issues. They want to make their job easy. They're making converts, not disciples. Jesus said, go into all the world, all heaven. He says, all authority has been given to me on heaven and on the earth. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, commanding them to obey all that I've commanded them. baptizing in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Lo, I'm with you always, even to the end of the age. Of all nations, nations are boundaries, borders, compacts, constitutions. We'll be judged individually on whether or not we've received Christ as our Savior, but nations will be judged on whether or not their citizens had access to truth and the ability to seek the living God. In this nation that was conceived next year, 250 years, we've been under one article of incorporation, the Declaration of Independence. You see, I can live my whole life in Japan and never be a Japanese citizen. Excuse me, I'll never be Japanese, even though I can become a citizen of Japan. I'll never be Japanese. You see, America is not an ethnicity, it's an idea. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among those being life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. For this reason, governments were instituted among men. Life, it's in that order. You see, liberty and happiness are of scarce little value if you're dead. We're a nation of life, in the womb and out of the womb. And when this nation was conceived with that understanding, and they established a constitutional republic, the book that they studied the most was the Bible, and the book of the Bible they quoted the most was Deuteronomy. And they wanted to understand civil law. And when they developed this nation, they made the sovereign the people in the preamble of the Constitution. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, do ordain and establish. They allowed us to elect only one branch of government. It was the lower house of the legislature. And they made that the most powerful branch because they gave them the purse strings. And those Congress members would elect the 2 senators from their state, and then those Congress members through the Electoral College would appoint the president in the early design of it, and then the president would appoint the judiciary. And they took this most powerful branch of government that was directly accountable to us because we'd elect them. And the beautiful aspect of the Declaration of Independence, which is poetic and lovely, and then the preamble, which is the same, but then you look at the Bill of Rights and the First Amendment, it's almost prohibitive and angry. The first 16 words: Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion nor prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Don't you dare get in the way of the citizens of this nation worshiping God, ever. You need to stop that. I've only got 9 minutes. You see, as John Adams said, only a moral and religious people can govern a republic. Our founders got this design of the republic from the children of Israel in the wilderness. They even came up with this idea when Jethro said to Moses, appoint godly men who are not covetous over thousands, hundreds, fifties, tens, federal, state, county, local. The psalmist would write, the Lord is our king, our lawgiver, our judge, legislative, executive, judicial branch. And all of this came about as they studied the scriptures and put together this nation that represents only 4% of the world's population. Yet we've had more Nobel Peace Prize winners, more symphonies, more patents, more accumulation of wealth than any other nation in the 6,000 years of recorded history. You fly in an airplane, it was invented by an American. You ride in an elevator, it was invented by an American. You enjoy air conditioning, it was invented by an American. You enjoy the internet, it was invented by an American, not Al Gore. Not because we have more natural resources. Canada surpasses us as the South Americans, because we have freedom. Freedom. And freedom we must be vigilant to protect. And the pulpits of America have lulled the sheep to sleep by truncating the gospel and embracing Gnosticism. And Charlie, as I said, was the most misunderstood missionary in America because he saw politics as an on-ramp to Jesus. He contended for this young generation that had been saddled with the debt of the largesse living of the previous generations. I'm the tail end of the boomers. I'm the last part of the pig and the python. You don't know what that means, it's all right. And we've saddled this generation with $37 trillion of debt. It was when I was young and newly married that it took 3 times my income to buy a house. Now it's 7 times an annual income. These kids are the most indebted, drug addicted, and depressed generation in America, and we've abandoned them because we don't do politics. And good government happens with good people, and the churches haven't discipled the people to engage in a representative form of government to protect that freedom. And these kids woke up to Charlie coming and saying, we can turn this around, because if Charlie didn't do what he did, those kids would move to Mamdani and AOC, and they'd be burning cities. And he gave them a vision and reminded them of who they are and what this government means. And he did this in such a unique way that in the next 6 minutes, I'm gonna do my best. You see, Charlie was a Moses. Moses, at 80 years of age, confronted Pharaoh because God told him to and said, let my people go. And like any tyrant, Pharaoh said, who is God that I should obey him? And one man in God constitutes a majority. And the 10 plagues, and then the last one was the Passover, the Pesach. And Pharaoh relented and let the Hebrew slaves go. And parted the Red Sea, drowned the Egyptian army, and they ended up in the wilderness. And by Moses' faithfulness to God, manna was provided, water was provided, quail was provided, their shoes didn't wear out, their clothes didn't wear out. And he took a nation that Abraham had heard from God was prophesied. They'd been enslaved, they'd forgotten God, and he absolutely re-educated an entire generation of people to understand, no, your God isn't small g like the ones that we just obliterated with the 10 plagues. Your God is the one who holds the heavens in the span of his hand. Your God is the one who created this earth. He created you, he created family. And he went up on Mount Sinai, and God gave him a downloaded moral app. Joshua went with him. Joshua didn't get to go into the presence of the Lord. He just wandered around while Aaron and Hur were fashioning a golden calf and having a rave party down in the base. And Moses goes in, and God gives him the Decalogue. I have a children's book, and you're gonna want it for your kids, because God commanded you teach your children. And I'd be hard pressed if 10% of the people in this room know the moral law of God. The law doesn't save, but it's a school teacher to point us to Christ until faith comes, Galatians 3. And it was intended for all generations. Hold up one finger, please. Say, one God. Take 2 fingers, bend the second one. No idols, don't bow down. Take 3 fingers, put it over your mouth. Don't take the name of the Lord your God in vain. 4 fingers, make a pillow. Honor the Sabbath. 5 fingers, salute. Come on. Honor your mother and father. It'll go well with you. You'll live long in the land in which I've given you. 6, don't murder. 7, do this. There's only 2 in a marriage, not 5. Don't commit adultery. 8, hide your thumbs, because if you steal, we'll cut them off. Don't steal. 9, it's 5, not 4. It's 4, not 5. Don't bear false witness. And 10, do this. Don't covet. You learned it. That was 4 seconds. Moses comes down from Mount Sinai, places that law in the center of the community, educates the children and generations to come. And for 40 years, this is the greatest miracle of all, for 40 years, 3 to 5 million people lived together without a police force or a standing army. They were accountable to God and accountable to each other. The moral law is critical. From the moral law came the civil law. Moses educated them on marital law, civil law, common law. They would wake up and he'd be there. And when he'd move at night, the pillar of fire would travel. And when Moses would move during the day, the pillar of smoke would follow. And then he died. 30 days they wept. The man that had re-identified and re-educated and redefined an entire generation, he's gone. These kids in America who were trapped in the pagan education of secular education, being indoctrinated by this stupidity, were set free from captivity and slavery by this modern day Moses, who showed them, you are a child of the living God, and you're in the freest nation on the face of the earth, that liberty is one generation away from being obliterated. And it used to be me and Charlie and a couple of folks and a sea of detractors. And at the end of his life, it was Charlie, a handful of people, and a sea of red hats and kids coming to Christ all over the country. 18 to 30-year-olds, the largest move of conservatism in the history of the United States. These kids have been imprinted like a chick with a mother hen. They'll vote conservative the rest of their lives. And more importantly, I am Charlie Kirk is what they're all saying.
Because the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that